The Florida Gators recruiting class is mostly committed, but they still do need to add some things. We're going to talk about that here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Monday. Hopefully you don't have to work right now. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Whole 9 Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. Today's episode of Locked On Gators brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And like I said, we're talking about what the Florida Gators still need, because the class is great so far. Like I'm not gonna complain about a single thing with this class really. However, there are still needs. Even the best can improve, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. So there you go. But for me, I think the biggest need still on the board is corner. And I think when you ask people, the first two needs are pretty easy. But for me right now, it's corner. You don't have a true corner committed to this class of 2024. That's not great. Because especially when you consider you want to bring in at least a couple. So having zero at this point when your class is mostly done, not concerning. Nothing is concerning at this point. It is early July. We ain't concerned about anything. However, it is something where you're like, all right, well, you should probably get a little, not even just the commit done, but you should probably get a little more traction. Jamrock went to Bama. So many kids have just gone elsewhere. Justin Denson pushed back his commitment from July 1st to July 4th. So he'll be committing tomorrow at this point. Time is to be determined. It was something about he wanted everybody to be together, and his mom's rental car got stuck in Virginia, I want to say, and that became a whole thing. So there's that with Justin Denson. If he still has a spot, he's one of those guys where I've said, I'm iffy on if he still has a spot there, or if they'd take Teddy Foster first. The issue with that, of course, is that if you prefer Teddy Foster to Justin Denson and you go, hey, Justin, you don't even have the option to commit here, and then you miss out on Teddy Foster, you've missed out on both of the raw athletic DBs that you've been trying to bring in. And as far as Teddy Foster goes, I still feel good about Teddy Foster. I do. And I know that there are plenty of people in Gainesville that still feel pretty good about Teddy Foster, and not just who Teddy Foster is, but that Teddy Foster will eventually commit to the Florida Gators whenever he gets the opportunity to do so. So for me, I still feel good about Teddy Foster. I know a lot of people still feel good about Teddy Foster. So for me, I'm just letting it ride now. I'm still rolling with Teddy Foster here. But again, you're looking for top talent still. You have Corey Raymond. You should be able to bring in these top talent. And it's also, I think, important to note, I feel like, and I'm not saying this as if it's fact because I'm literally thinking of this as I'm saying it. I feel like we've seen a lot less of the Florida Gators even recruiting corners in this cycle. Maybe they're trying to be a little pickier. Maybe they're just not big fans of what's going on. But I feel like there's been less corners that they're really going for. Like, you're still going for Teddy Foster, Jamari Howard. There's still plenty of guys you're going for. But I don't know. I feel like we usually see Florida connected to like 60 corners. And I feel like it's been considerably less this time around. But also, I mean, Florida's still continuing to look for those long athletic options. Like I said, Teddy Foster, Justin Denson, if he's still got a spot. Jamari Howard is still a name in there. And that's what they always do at corner. That's what Corey Raymond wants to do, because it's easy to take a great athlete and mold them into somebody that can be a great corner as well. Just for fun, I was a bad athlete and an okay at best corner. So there's that. Imagine if I was a good athlete, then maybe I'd be okay, just period at corner. But for the corner room, like I know that a good or a big selling point that Florida Gators fans want to bring up, myself included sometimes, is you're going to play early because of that rotating corner strategy that the Gators like to do, that they like to use, 5, 6 corners deep in any given game. That is a great strategy to sell early playing time. However, that strategy I feel like also kind of not that I have an issue with the strategy really, but that as long as you're playing good corners, but that strategy also does lead, I think, to a good deal of transfers because you're going, okay, like, well, it's my sophomore year. They're rotating 6 corners. I'm not playing. That means I'm not in the top 6 corners. I'm gonna bounce, and the true freshman can come in and that's the kind of cycle you have. But guess what? That that strategy of filtering out the corners who aren't latching on to the portal and then bringing in high school corners only works if you have constant cornerback talent cycling into the room as well. So that's why I'm like, yeah, Florida, you really need to add a corner because right now, if things stick, then that rotating corner strategy that is going to have some kids leave because they're going to say, hey, we're 5 or 6 deep in this rotation, and I'm not in the 5 or 6 deep. I'm leaving. That's going to be a thing. You need corners that can come in and replace them on that back end. Okay, so Florida, like add a corner. And again, like I said, this is not anything that I'm stressing about. Like I'm not losing sleep over this recruiting class. It's a fantastic recruiting class. I mean, it's what unanimously top 5 at this point. It's a great recruiting class. It just obviously, like everything else, has some flaws, which is totally fine. But it should be addressed. We are about to talk about the next biggest need, which I know for a lot of people is the biggest need. But first, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And let me tell you, I bet dingers a lot. I bet for dingers because it's a fun thing to do. Every time Francisco Lindor plays a lefty, bet his dinger. Every time Ellie De La Cruz faces a righty, I bet his dinger. Josh Jung against a lefty, dinger. That's what I'm doing. And also tomorrow, by the way, is Dinger Tuesday, which is the best promo ever, where it's like you bet $25 on someone to hit a home run. And if they don't hit, you get $5 back in bonus bets, up to $25 for every home run that is hit in that game by someone else. It's incredible. It's awesome. Also, new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Go to fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And now we're at the point where this is still a big concern for me, and I know for many people, including at least a couple in the Locked On Gators Discord, this might be the biggest concern with this recruiting class right now. And it's offensive tackle. And it's no disrespect intended at all for the current class. I'm very happy with who they've brought in so far. However, when you're looking at just this class, it's like, oh, blue chip talent, 4-star, 5-star. And then you get to the bottom of the class. And of the bottom 4 players, 3 of them are the only 3 offensive lineman commits. And granted, we've said Marcus Maskell is going to rise. He's a great athlete. He's becoming more developed. He's going to rise. By the end of the cycle, he's going to be probably mid to high 4-star. Noah Portniagan has a low-ish ranking. I don't think that's going to go up that much because he is from Germany. I'm not sure really how he would even raise his ranking at this point because I feel like they're not really gonna do the due diligence on him. And that's not saying I think he should be higher. Maybe he should be lower. I don't know, but that's not my job. I'm not a recruiting service. And of course, Mike Williams is the last one, formerly committed to South Carolina, decommitted, committed to Florida. And again, like I think he's another guy who we're going to talk about as he's better than his ranking. That's fine. Like that's going to happen a lot with Florida offensive linemen just because of who you have developing them. The concern, I think, amongst a lot of Florida Gators fans is that you don't really have a lot of top talent that can play early-ish. That's not really a thing that you've got going for you, and you're still in for Fletcher Westphal, and you're still in for quite a few guys. You lost out on Ethan Callaway to LSU the other day, but you don't have that committed yet. And for a lot of Florida Gators fans, last year that was an issue. So for that to be an issue last year and then this year as well, given the I think for a lot of Florida Gators fans, you go, okay, well, you've got Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton, and they're fantastic offensive line developers. They're great O-line coaches. Why can't they bring in higher rated offensive linemen from recruiting? If they're so good, you just sell, hey, we're going to develop, like, you're already good. Imagine what you could be with us. Sounds easy. It's obviously a lot more difficult to push forward, but every offensive lineman, whether they've committed to Florida or not, they have always sang the praises of Rob Sale, Darnell Stapleton. That's been a thing. And like I said, like we know that this coaching staff can develop players, but it would be nice to have a higher floor as the starting point, as opposed to the lower rated guys that might not be ready early on, but can be really good. Like if you want to compete at an elite level in the SEC, which obviously it's the SEC. So when we say you want to compete at an elite level in the SEC, what we're really saying is if you want to be a national champion contender, okay, you need to bring in top talent. Okay, you need to take in that top talent in the country at tackle, and you need to make that talent better. Okay, you need to bring in top talent and make it better instead of bringing in these low ranked guys who, again, I don't have an issue with the low ranking. What I usually take it as is who's more ready to play from day one, who's not. That's how I take it. I don't take it as, you know, he's never going to be great. He's never going to be this. I don't take it as that. I take it as, is he ready day one, or how likely is it that he's ready day one? That's how I take rankings most of the time. That's why I don't put much stock in them, because usually I don't care if you're ready day one. I usually don't care if an offensive lineman or if any commit really is ready day one for the most part. So for me, that's how I look at stars. I look at these rankings as how ready are you to play day one. So Florida's been bringing in these guys who aren't typically thought of as ready for day one and developing them. And by Florida, I just mean the staff: Rob Sale, Billy Napier, Darnell Stapleton. Rob Sale, like I've mentioned, has done it with so many offensive linemen. Max Mitchell is with the New York Jets right now. You have Osiris Torrance is with the Buffalo Bills right now. You have Robert Hunt is with the Miami Dolphins right now. Billy Napier, offensive lineman, and Rob Sale, offensive lineman, go to the AFC East. That's what we're learning here. That's what we've learned on this holiday weekend. That's it. But my point is, like, Florida takes these not high-ranking recruits, or Billy Napier, Rob Sale, these not high-ranking recruits, put in the work, put in the effort, and poof, they become literally NFL players. Imagine if you took in a guy who people were already looking at him and going, oh, he's going to be in the NFL soon, and then developing him long-term. And it's like, man, imagine what you could do with him. Because, like, that's what you need to do. If you want to compete on an SEC national level, you need to bring in top talent and make them better, in addition to bringing in developmental pieces that you think are diamonds in the rough. Like Noah Portniagan, great. I love it. Like, I feel like that's one of those additions where you know it's a gamble, but you're cool with it because you know that if you can get him right, you can have a great play. He does backflips. He does the little I don't know if this is actually the name of it, but like the Shawn Michaels like kip up. He does that thing. Like he does these athletic things for an offensive lineman. Like, that's great. If you can get him technically sound, fantastic. But imagine if he was like the bottom of your recruiting class and it was like, yeah, he works out or he doesn't. We've got these great players ready to go for us regardless. That'd be pretty dope, right? Yeah. We're about to talk about the last need, which again, I don't think it's a huge need. I don't think there's many weaknesses in this class, but there are still some areas that need to improve. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Please do be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review. Discord is in the link, or the link to the Locked On Gators Discord is in the description below. We have fun there. We're going to continue having fun there. But now about the third biggest need here, because I don't like to use weakness, but the third biggest need here is a position that I think right now is weak on roster, and it's safety. I fully understand you have Xavier Filsame and you have Josiah Davis committed. We'll talk about them in a second. But this is just a safety class that, I'm not super solid or a safety room that I'm not super solid on and I'm not super sold on. There's obviously some weaknesses here, but I think for me, the biggest reason that I say safety for the Florida Gators is weak is mostly because I'm still not sold on there being a long-term deep safety on this roster right now outside of Jordan Castell and maybe Dijon Johnson, maybe Bryce Thornton, but either way, that's projecting 3 safety commits from 2023 to become starters at the SEC, like SEC quality starters. And again, similar to when I said if you want to compete at an elite SEC level, it's basically saying compete at a national level. I don't know if those 3 guys are going to be considered, like legitimate, no doubt starters on basically any team in college football when it's all said and done. So I'm not going to go, oh, you don't worry about adding a safety. You've got 3 freshmen. They'll be good. That's not a winning approach in my opinion. And like I said, I'm not sure that you've got that long-term deep safety option. Kamari Wilson. I think that he's not as bad as a safety, as a deep safety, as people like to make him seem, but he's still not good. Miguel Mitchell, we don't know. He's not proven. Maybe he's the guy long term, but he's not proven at all as a deep safety. He played star mostly as a true freshman last year. RJ Moten, he's got the experience there, but if I'm not mistaken, he's got just this year and next year of eligibility. That's not a long-term answer. Jordan and also like you could leave after next year if you're, Kamari Wilson or Miguel Mitchell, you end up working out. You could leave after next year, and that's fine. But RJ Moten can't stay longer than that. So that's why I'm like, he's not a long-term option for me at all because I know he can't stay longer. Miguel Mitchell, Kamari Wilson could stay for another year after that. But Jordan Castell could be, and I think he is going to be a long-term answer as a deep safety. I think he's just got that skill set. Bryce Thornton, I know that he's got the IQ to do it. He might long-term be someone who operates better closer to the line of scrimmage. Fine by me. I still think he's going to be a very good football player. Dakota Mitchell, still waiting to see him separate himself from the pack. It's been a couple years now. Dijon Johnson, late enrollee. He just got to campus a couple weeks ago. We have no idea what he's going to become. Jakeem Jackson is someone who, going into the season, a lot of people were like, hey, maybe he's going to play safety. He could play every spot in the secondary. And that's true. But we're not going to project that he's going to move from corner to safety. That's a silly projection to make, in my opinion. And it's vitally important to have that guy who can be that deep safety in this Austin Armstrong defense. You need that center fielder type. And they don't need to be as good as Earl Thomas, no. But you need to have that center fielder type. Because yes, when you watch Austin Armstrong's defense and you watch the Florida Gators this year, you're going to see a lot of two high shells. Two high shells just means that you have two safeties deep and ready to go. And it's like, if you're playing Madden and you see that, you're going, oh, that's cover 2, maybe cover 4. But it's both safeties are lined up at the top and they're waiting. While he does that a lot, the coverage that Austin Armstrong played more than any other coverage, cover 3, meaning that while there's two safeties, one drops and one rotates up, one rotates down, and they move around. And so you need that center fielder type. That's what, like I said, you don't need an Earl Thomas type, but having a good center fielder type is one of the things that made that Legion of Boom Seahawks defense so good, was that they could press you to the sideline and you can't throw deep on them there. And you have Earl Thomas over the middle, can't throw deep over the middle either. And that's what made them so good. That cover 3 style is here. Dan Quinn used to be Florida Gators. Well, used to be with the Florida Gators coaching staff. He cover 3 style, like cover 3 heavy. That was him a lot. That's just coming back to games. But cover 3 is one of the best coverages in football. I think it is the best coverage in football. It was the single most played coverage by Austin Armstrong at Southern Miss. It's going to be maybe not the single most played coverage in Florida, but it's going to be one of those. One of the most played coverages for the Florida Gators. That's why you need that center field type safety that can cover that range. And like I mentioned earlier, bringing in Xavier Filsaime and Josiah Davis, that's great. But you also did lose a lot from that safety room from 2022 to 2023. You did that, and you've got plenty of room for improvement. But you did lose a lot from that safety room. And again, that's fine. I don't think anybody really misses most of the safeties that they lost. That's not something that I think most of us are really, how do I say this, hurting over. I'm gonna look up now what it was exactly, because, well, let's see. You lost Trey Dean and Rashad Torrance to the NFL. Whether or not you like them, I don't care. That's the fact of what happened. You lost them. You brought in RJ Martin, which is great, but I mean, just at safety alone, you also lost who, by the way, this was just an absolute killer for me, losing Donovan McMillan. Big fan of Donovan McMillan's game. I thought he was going to be the future at safety for the Florida Gators. Evidently not. You lost him at safety. You lost Trey Dean, Rashad Torrance, Donovan McMillan. Those are your 3 so far. You lost Kamar Wilcoxon, who, say what you will, but he was a safety in that room, and he had potential. You lost Corey Collier, and another safety in that room that had potential. You lost 5 safeties, and Trevez Johnson was a star that I think if he didn't play star would have been a safety. So you lost a lot from 2022 to 2023. And you had a bad room in 2022. And if anything, we can talk ourselves into addition by subtraction, but still not great situation. You've still got to add some depth to that room. You've got to add some probably athleticism to that room. I think a bit more still at this point. There's plenty of room for improvement. There always is. That's how things go. And for me, I think safety is one of those areas where Florida should look to improve this class. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports. That is WHOLENINE Sports. Go to Giants Country, NFL 33. Locked On Gators Discord. Links in the description below. And I will see you all tomorrow.